Hi, we're talking about running marathons on consecutive days, which Cindy did recently. Cindy, welcome. Thank you for talking to me today about
Definitely.
consecutive marathons. First, wondered if you could tell us how many marathons you have run overall total, and then we'll get into a little more detail about some of them.
Okay. So I finished with 48 states and 50 marathons. I have 2 states to go. And last year I started off, I wanted to get a bunch of states done. I'm sort of in a little bit of a hurry. I'm wanting to get a few states done over the course of a couple of days, and I never had really done that before. So last summer, Mainly Marathons puts on a series of marathons where you could run 7 in 7 days across 7 different states, but I didn't need to do that. I needed to do 3 states in particular. So I did Michigan, I had a day off, and then I did Illinois, I had a day off, and then I did Wisconsin. So these were my medals from last year's Mainly Marathon in July.
So that was 3 marathons in 5 days.
3
right?
marathons in 5
day,
days, yes.
Then a day off, another marathon day off, and then
Yeah.
another marathon. So 3 in 5 days.
Yeah.
And how did that differ from your previous, experiences of running one every so often, even if it was, 6 weeks or maybe even a couple of months apart? Those 3 in 5 days, was that
Yeah.
very different from your previous experiences?
Yeah, I thought it was different. I never had done that before, so I really was going into uncharted territory. And what you really should do to try to do stuff like that, which sounds a little crazy, but the marathoners tend to be a little crazy, and that's what I love about them. Is you try to replicate that in your training. You do a couple of 20-mile runs, and you try to build that fatigue, so you're able to do that when it comes to racing, so to speak. But I knew these 3 marathons in 5 days, like I wasn't going to race them. Let's just face the facts. When you have one marathon coming up and you've totally trained properly for it, and you've built your training and you've tapered appropriately and you're ready to roll, you can race it and you can go all out, and you should, if you're feeling really good. But I knew doing 3 in 5 days that you're not going to do that at all. You really have to pace yourself.
Right. So you had a very
do it
different
right.
plan going into those 3 than for a standalone marathon with weeks or months to lead up to it. Right.
Definitely. Like even the first one I did, which was Michigan, I remember I think my time was like 4:40, which isn't great, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I thought, oh, it's 4:40, it's slower than what I usually run. Oh, I won't feel that bad. But the truth is, I still felt bad. You think you're not going to feel bad even running a half an hour slower, 45 minutes slower, but you still feel bad because 26.2 miles is a long way to go, and you are definitely going to feel that fatigue and that lactic acid buildup the next day. I remember when I did these 3 marathons last summer, I remember saying to you that I was very glad that I had a day off in between, because
Right.
you have a day of recovery in between to eat well that evening and the next day, and really rehydrate and do all the right stuff. And I had brought my compression boots with me, and the roller and everything, and you really had the time to get it all done.
Right.
And sort of reset yourself for the next one, going every other day.
So you had a plan for recovery on those off days in between, those 2 off days between the 3 marathons.
Yeah.
And did that go about how you expected last year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And sleep is so super important. I'll always say that. Like for runners, sleep is gold. Like if you're not prioritizing your sleep, that's just something you have to do.
So did you come out of those 3 marathons thinking that, if you were going to do that again, you'd do something different, or anything from that experience really help you prepare as much as you could for running consecutive days, which is what you did this year?
Not really.
Yeah.
Really, it's almost like you know, I think marathoners, I know how my mind works. Like, you know, when you've done something, what you think is crazy, which is really just 3 marathons in 5 days, to like, you know, people who have never ran a marathon before in their life, they're thinking, oh my, that's crazy. Why would you do such a thing? But like for us, we do it. It's like, you know, we're kind of like endurance junkies, so to speak. And we love the challenge of figuring out, like, can I do this? Can I keep going and feel very fatigued and just keep pressing on and one foot after the other? That's the beauty of the challenge. And that's what I think, you know, what makes this so much fun, you know, because I had done so many single marathons and I know how that feels and going all out, but it's like, no, I just want to up it a little bit and like see what I can do.
So you didn't come out of last year thinking, whoa, I need a very different approach than what I took. You
not
felt pretty
really.
good about how it went and everything else. So
Yeah, I did.
do you feel like that experience set the stage for 2 marathons in consecutive days this year? And then also, could you tell us sort of how you prepped for that and go right through to what it was like to run them and recover?
Oh, yeah. So this year in May, we did the Prairie Series. Last year, we did the Heartland Series. And I only had to do South Dakota and North Dakota. So what Mainly Marathons does, and they're really awesome people. They're super fun to run with. They give you, you know, you have your you know, lanyard here, Prairie Series, and then you get the state that you've completed after you actually completed the race. So that's pretty cool. So I got South Dakota and North Dakota, and I just had to go after those 2 states so I could just be one step closer to having it complete. And I mean, my preparation was very similar to last year. Like, I had never done this before. I never had done 2 days in a row. But again, I kind of wanted to see what I could do. And I was, you know, on one hand, I was concerned, like, you know, gee, am I going to feel really bad like that night? And am I going to be able to like turn it around quickly the next morning? But that's the beauty of kind of discovering it, figuring out what can I do. I just want to see what I can do. And even though most people would say, don't do stuff like this, it's not healthy, whatever. But, you know, I've run 50 marathons in my life. You know, I didn't run them as fast as I could. I mean, when the day came, honestly, we got to the race course, if you will. Essentially, you run in parks and you do lots of loops. So for South Dakota, I figured out the day before the race, we went to where it was, and I realized, because I didn't really read a lot about it beforehand, it didn't matter to me. I just wanted to get the race done. And it was a dirt course, gravel, no pavement whatsoever. And yeah, that was a little concerning, like, because you weren't going to have the bounce back of the pavement to kind of help you along. But honestly, that was my situation, and I really didn't care because I just wanted to do it. I wanted to complete it. I didn't care what the course was. I just wanted to do it and get it done. And it was, you know, was the race difficult? I mean, it was my worst marathon time, but I wasn't trying to race it, you know. I had no bounce back whatsoever. I was just trying to complete it.
And you knew you had the next one coming up the next
day,
day, so
yeah.
maybe you were thinking, I got to save something here.
Save something, because
Yeah.
I'm going to uncharted territory, and I wanted to see, you know, what I had left. And there was no question in my mind that if I was going all the way to South Dakota and North Dakota, that I was definitely going to finish it. But, you know, I wanted it to, you know, do it in a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, that ended up happening, and you know, it went okay, and it's really fun doing Mainly Marathons. I think, you know, we flew into Minnesota, and we NSP, and we drove all the way to Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls, I get it mixed up. And, you know, it was like a 3-4 hour drive, and, you know, you just hunker down and get ready for the race the next day, and off you go. And then ran the race and finished it, and basically got right in the car, and we drove to North Dakota, which was about 3 hours. And I put my feet up on the dashboard as soon as I got in the car, and I just remember thinking and a feeling, I can remember that feeling like right now, you know, my legs were aching. Your legs ache usually pretty bad after a marathon. And this was my longest marathon, which, you know, again,
Longest time on your feet.
longest
right?
time
Like
on
you
my
said, the
feet,
yeah.
which,
Yeah.
you know, is never good either. Because when you're running long and a long marathon and it's, you know, an hour longer than you usually run, it's just never good. You get a lot of fatigue going on, lactic acid, all that. So, but I put my feet up on the dashboard. They were just really aching. Eventually, that sort of that pain and ache kind of subsided. But we basically were in the car for like 3 hours. 3 hours, and the best thing you can do, you know, in between, as soon as you can, you know, hydrate, have something with protein in it. That's the best thing you could do as a runner. I mean, I didn't follow my own advice at that point. You know, honestly, I didn't feel like eating because I had a lot of like goo and stuff like that. And so I just didn't want anything, but I knew that wasn't smart of me. But at the same time, I've done this so many times before, I felt pretty confident in my ability to just be okay. So we drove to North Dakota and we got food and we ate and went to our hotel, checked in. Then I finally took a shower and got ready for bed pretty much, and it was probably like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And you know, we don't live an exciting life. I mean, that's our excitement of our life. So we're in this small town in North Dakota, and that was pretty much it. I mean, you know, just trying to I brought the roller, try to roll out your legs. You know, in the shower, you try to alternate hot and cold water just to get, you know, the circulation going. You know, of course, if you could take an ice bath, do that. That's a good thing to do too. I did not do that. And you just try to feel better and do the best thing you can. I mean, I remember that night I had a pretty good headache, but I remember telling him I had a headache, and he's like, well, yeah, because you're on your feet for so long and your brain's rattling in your skull. And I'm like, yeah. So, you know, you just take Tylenol, it's fine. And I didn't think I was dehydrated at all, but I suppose that could have been. But I mean, I was trying to be good at rehydrating, and that's kind of what I did that night. And you know, I remember taking Tylenol, drinking, and I had something else to eat before I went to bed. And I woke up the next day, and I felt, you know, not that I didn't feel sore, but I felt like, okay, my headache's gone, and let's go. We'll do it again.
And when you did it again,
Yeah.
and you got going, did you feel like you were really dragging it first? I'm assuming it didn't feel like, you know, a marathon when you had plenty of time to rest before. But
Yeah.
Could you compare it? Like you felt maybe 40% of, you know,
Yeah.
how it felt if you were coming in totally fresh? Or was it better than that because of your training and the endurance that you've built up?
Yeah, I mean, my first mile was like 9:57 pace, which isn't really bad considering I ran a marathon the day before, and you're always energized to run. You know what I mean? Like even when
Adrenaline
yeah,
played a role?
adrenaline always plays a role, and it's a race. Even if it's your intention not to run hard and fast, it's still exciting, and still, you know, the pursuit of the challenge of, you know, that's what I get excited about. Like, can I do this? You know, is this something that I'm going to be able to do today? And I'm like, yeah, I know in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to do this, so let's go. And, you know, I started off, and half the next course, I would say 75% of it was on pavement or concrete, and 25% of it was like dirt and mud because it had rained a lot. And we started off in the mud, right? I think we didn't start off in the mud, but when we turned around, we were in the mud.
Pretty quickly.
And my first mile was around 9:57. I was trying to stay roughly around like 10:30 pace as long as I could. And you know, I definitely would say like the second marathon, I felt more fatigue, obviously sooner. You feel it a lot sooner. Like by mile 13, I think I ran my half marathon in the second day faster than the first day.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of makes sense. I'm running mostly pavement,
Right.
Not all, but better than the day before. So
But having run a marathon the
Yeah.
day before didn't bring you to a point where it was going to take you 1.5 times as long.
No, I mean the marathon on the second day actually was like 20 minutes faster, and I attribute that to the pavement or the concrete, and just knowing that I didn't have another one the next day. Like at the end of the race, I ran under 5 hours, which I was trying to do that. So the last mile or two, and I knew it was going to be tight. I was really trying to pick up the pace, and I was trying to go to places like I had never been, mentally and physically. Like, okay, even though you still have this massive fatigue from yesterday and today, but I want to finish under 5 hours, and so I did. But yeah, I mean, I was motivated by just completing the challenge, and there were people on the course, that guy Jim, who was in the 50 States Club. I don't know his last name, but he was so friendly and nice, and he kept cheering me on. I kept cheering him on, and people were so nice and friendly, and because we kept doing loops. It was like 14 loops in North Dakota, and it was fun. Even though someone might say, oh, that's so monotonous, how can you do that? But it's like when you want to complete a challenge, you don't care where you run. You just want to run and complete it. And as long as it counts as a state and it's over 26.2 miles, that's all that mattered to me. I mean, honestly, to this day, I mean, it's now a month and a half later, I haven't even looked at the results,
Right.
I think he told me that I was like the first female to win, and honestly, I don't care. I don't care. All I care about is that I did it and I completed it, and that's what I was certainly happy about. And I got on to 5 hours the second day. So I ran the second day faster, which was great. But that's just some, thing that I did for myself. Like, no one else really cares about that except me. But
well, no, I think people do care because it sounds to me, and it makes sense that on day one you had it in mind. I better hold something back because I've got to do this again tomorrow. Whereas on day two, there was nothing to hold back. Whatever you had was put out there, because there was nothing the next day. And as it turns out, you had plenty. You had plenty in there. Like you said, you improved your time on day two for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
The conditions or the course condition, the pavement versus gravel
so much
being
better.
one, but probably also what you had in mind. This is when I put it all out there. This is when I just release everything that I have, and that was the result. Well,
Yeah.
what a great summary and a great experience. Thank you.
It was certainly fun. So, I mean, to anyone out there, if you want to do something like this, I mean, what's great about mainly marathons is like you can take as long as you want to finish the race. I mean, some of the people, of course I ran, and I think a woman after the race said that, she ran the whole way. I mean, otherwise just grabbing stuff to eat or drink. But some of the people walk or run walk. Really it's everyone's individual challenge. It's what you want it to be. And there's no real time limit per se. So, and it's really fun, you can watch, like they have a lot of the campers going around the parks and things like that. So it's a great way to get a bunch of states in, doing the 50 states. Obviously you got to travel a lot and it takes a lot of time. I mean, I'm at the end of the journey now. I have 2 states left to go. It's taken me almost 10 years to complete it. I didn't have that in my mind, like when I started it in 2015, January 2015, I ran in Arizona. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to take me 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, what have you, but it's taken me just under 10 years to do. And, it's a great way to get a bunch of states in so you can, save on travel costs as well. And it's really fun to do the challenge. I mean, like maybe someday when, I don't know if I'll do 7 marathons, in a week, but it's kind of a cool challenge to see if you can do. I mean, once I do the states, I don't know what I'm going to do, probably half marathons in every state. but you know, that's a lot easier. The marathons tend to take a real lot out of you. But yeah, so I would highly recommend these guys. They do a great job putting on a great event. And you know, it's kind of like a no frills event, but that's okay. If you just want to run the distance in a different state and get it done and check it off your list, I think, and it's a great challenge, and they make it fun.
Yeah,
You know?
and they have great support, right?
Great support.
They've got a trailer, and they offer
Lots of food.
refreshments and nourishment and food, yeah, and all that. So, and
Yeah.
they do half marathons too, right? So
They do
somebody
half,
who's
yeah, and
looking to do
10Ks.
halves, exactly.
And
So they offer a lot.
yeah, but that's
That's the
the
story,
summary.
right?
That's
of
the
2
story.
marathons in 2 days. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
experience.
no problem. It's fun.